Date had been driving since morning and was extremely tired. He was only about 30 kilometers away from his village when he passed through another village. As he was passing through, he noticed that all the villagers were gathered in one place. From there, loud screams and the sound of drums were echoing. Dot, who had grown up in Bengaluru, was visiting his ancestral village in Puttur district for the first time. His family had ancestral land there, which his father never wanted to sell. But after his father passed away, Dot was now heading to his village to sell the land to a hotel company. As his car made its way through various villages, he kept hearing the sound of drums and screams. The night was lit up with the glow of burning spices, adding to the mysterious atmosphere. He was witnessing all this for the first time in his life. When he finally reached his home in the village, he saw that it was decorated just like the other villages, but no celebration was happening yet. When he asked Kaka, the caretaker of the house, about the decorations, he was told that the next day, Kola was going to take place. Since it was already late at night and Dot was extremely tired, he fell asleep before he could listen to Kaka's explanation. The next day, hotel representatives arrived at his house. After showing them the land and bidding them farewell, he was about to sign the property papers in the evening when he heard the same drumming and screaming sounds again. Curious, he looked out of his window and saw an unusual sight. Leaving the papers inside the house, he stepped outside to see the celebration for himself. He stood quietly at the back of the crowd, watching everything. At the center of the gathering, a man dressed in colorful clothes was trembling and performing a strange dance. The villagers stood before him with folded hands, asking him various things. Before Dot could understand what was happening, the man suddenly stopped dancing, turned around and ran toward him, staring directly at him. Date was terrified. The man's face was painted yellow and he was covered in heavy ornaments. On his head he wore the hide of a wild boar, making him look even more eerie. The man stared at Date for a long time before suddenly screaming, so loud that Dot's soul trembled. After screaming at him, the man ran off into the jungle. The faces of the villagers were filled with fear. They started warning Dot that something bad was about to happen to him and that he needed to be careful with every step he took. Dot laughed off their superstitions and returned home. As soon as he reached home, Kaka came running after him, looking anxious. He explained that the man who screamed at Dot was actually Panjurli Daiva, the guardian spirit who protected the villagers and their land from harm. Every year, during Bhoot Kola, he appeared to solve the problems of the villagers, which is why the grand festival was celebrated. Kaka then told him that Panjurli Daiva's scream at Date meant that he was against the sale of the land. If Date went ahead with the sale, his life could be in danger. Date laughed at all of this superstition, grabbed the property papers, signed them, and went to sleep feeling victorious. That night, as he slept peacefully, he suddenly woke up to a familiar sound, the same sound he had heard at the Bhoot Kola event. But this time, it wasn't drumming. It was the sound of someone crying. Terrified, he followed the sound to his door, but when he looked outside, there was no one there. Suddenly, a fiery spark flashed in the air, and Panjurli Daiva appeared before him, screaming loudly. Seeing this, Date broke into a sweat and ran straight to his car. He drove frantically, trying to escape the village. As he reached the jungle road, something appeared in front of his car that left him stunned. A wild boar, adorned with golden teeth and a golden crown, stood right in his path. He tried not to hit the boar, but by mistake his accident happens. After accident he fainted. When Dot regained consciousness, he was in a hospital. His Kaka was sitting beside him. Seeing him, Dot broke down in tears. Without wasting another moment, he asked Kaka to bring the property papers. As soon as Kaka brought them, Date tore them up right there in the hospital. After being discharged, he sought forgiveness from Panjurli Daiva and swore never to sell his ancestral land. He returned to Mangalore, never forgetting his terrifying experience. Was what happened to Dot really divine intervention, or just a coincidence? No one knows.